Hello everyone, today we're going to be talking about the sources of information and their pros and cons. So the first source that we're going to address is Wikipedia, which of course, starting with the pros, the first one is that it is a free source of information, so everyone who has internet can access it. It also implements community work, so we all can share our information no matter how valuable or maybe not valuable it is. And finally, the last pro that we have determined is quick access, because it doesn't matter the topic that you're researching, it doesn't matter if you're in your computer or in your cell phone, maybe an iPad, you can always access Wikipedia. And now, with some of the cons of Wikipedia, it's first that it is really easy to commit plagiarism when using it because, well, since we don't have the profiles of every single person that edits the documents, then it is likely that there are some people who are ill-intentioned that are uploading fake information or plagiarized information. And well, that leads us to the second con that we have determined, which is the confidentiality of the sources, because not in every Wikipedia article that we have, you actually need to reference all of the information that you use. And once again, not only can this incur into plagiarism, but it also like leaves the consultant like wondering what are the actual sources of information. And well, lastly, we have the potential bias that we have when using Wikipedia. Because, well, since it is a free source of information, and as we mentioned previously, any person who has access to internet can edit any document or any article, then, well, some of our personal beliefs or subjective beliefs might be affecting the objectivity in which we see the information and in which we edit it. The next source of information that we're gonna analyze the pros and cons from, it's gonna be the interviews. And well, as well, starting with the pros, the first one is the experience of the people. So people are most likely gonna feel more connected, like directly connected to the information that you're sharing in an interview because, well, we're using pathos, and when using that, you obviously establish an emotional connection with the interpreter, within the interpreter and the receiver. The next pro that we have determined is the easy language, because when you're doing an interview, it's most likely that the people that are gonna see that interview are gonna be people who are not experts in the topic, or maybe that are just doing some informal research. So easy language is gonna be a main pro for this source of information. And well, lastly, the empathy with the situation or with the character that you're interviewing, because as I mentioned previously, you're using pathos, right? And like usually, interviews are primary sources of information, and people are gonna feel really connected to the experience, and it's really important for them to feel like their feelings are being validated. And well, now into the cons of the interviews. The first one is that the credibility could be questioned, depending on the guest that you're interviewing. Because, well, not always we're going to be interviewing experts in the topic that we're talking about. As I mentioned, most likely you're going to be interviewing someone, that was like a main character in the event that occurred or in the topic, and that is gonna, of course, establish some kind of bias. And now moving on to the next con, it's actually that the subjectivity of the information, because of course, if you are revisiting, an interview regarding a traumatic event or maybe a really controversial topic, the guest in the interview is gonna have opinions of their own, and usually opinions are not objective, so you really need to take into account the subjectivity of the opinions of the person that is being interviewed. And well, finally, within the cons, we have the accuracy, because, well, as we have noticed in many news channels and stuff like that, interviews are not always made to experts or to teachers regarding the or masters in the subject, right? So, well, you need to take into account the fact that interviews are completely qualitative, not quantitative. So the information is going to be really biased, as we mentioned. It's going to be subjective, and it could not be accurate. So that's just a few things to take into account. And now we're going to move on to the next source, which is going to be the dictionaries. Starting again with the pros. Well, the first pro that we have determined is the official information that has already been approved. So, for example, if you visit the RAE dictionary, it is most likely all of the information there, it's going to be correct, because it has already been proven correctly by that institution. Another pro that we determined was that there is access, of course, to the spelling and the pronunciation. Of course, it's not going to be as easy or as easy to understand as if you Google it. However, you have it there, you have that information. And also the next pro that we have determined is the cultural insight. Because, well, in most of the cases, complete dictionaries, like really good dictionaries, have not only the etymology of the word, but also some of the cultural background. So in which countries is it more used, or when is it correct to use it, and well, yeah, stuff like that. And now moving on to the cons of the dictionary, the first one that we would have would be oversimplified definitions, right? Because of the next one, which is going to be lack of context. It is really important for us to have the context of every single word that we are researching, especially if we're talking about controversial topics, because, well, there are, of course, some words that have a historical background that, well, could be considered like slurs or stuff like that. And that actually leads me to the final con of the dictionary, which is going to be the possible racism or xenophobia used when not knowing the context or the background of the word. So yeah, those are some things that are really important to understand, that every single thing is determined by its context. So yeah, and now we're going to continue with some more definitions.
A primary source of information can be the newspapers, as they offer first-hand information about recent events or topics. However, they also don't always show all sides of the story, which can lead to misinformation or even uncertainty on some topics. A secondary source of information can be the textbooks, as they provide structured information in a very easily to read format. However, they also are really expensive to buy, so their resources are scarce. Also, there is also needs to mention that because they are provided mostly by the government, it can lead to some fake news, given that they may want to alter the public eye. Lastly, a tertiary source of information can be videos on YouTube or Facebook or in other social media, as they provide some information in an entertaining and dynamic format, which can keep us from looking another way. However, they may not be given by experts, and the videos may spread fake news and misinformation through the internet.
Using research reports as a source of information can be pretty helpful because they offer updated data. But a disadvantage of using this type of source can be that they have limited access because they are found usually in databases that have paywalls. Now, talking about magazines are pretty helpful because they usually are focused on specific topics, so they make more easy for the students to look for specific information. Now, on the other hand, a disadvantage of this is that to be able to look at the article, you have to subscribe to the magazine, so it limits the access to the information in the magazine.